Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Steve Grinstead, and I want to talk about an upcoming event on May 11th in Portland, Oregon, called Freedom from Suffering with Chronic Pain for people diagnosed with lupus. I am very excited about this, and I want to thank all my colleagues who have helped pull this together, especially Kelly and Molly. So we're so excited to be offering this experiential workshop to where you will go through 6 experiential exercises and at the end of the day have a roadmap to achieve your own personal freedom from suffering. So let me start with telling you just a little bit about my own personal story of hope. And remember though, freedom from suffering is definitely your right, but it's also a responsibility, and I had to learn that really early on. I've been living with chronic pain for a long time, since 1982, and then in the early 2000s, I experienced one of the worst flare-ups in my life, and I had to really start practicing what I teach. Part of it was doing a daily pain journaling, what I call empowerment pain journaling. After about 6 months, as I was looking back over there, it became the foundation for my last book. It took a long time for this one, but finally I pulled it together with the help of my wife, Ellen. She's my partner in life and business. And we co-authored the book, Freedom from Suffering, A Journey of Hope. And it's been an exciting journey of hope for me, myself, and I've trained over 40,000 healthcare providers, worked with thousands of patients. And today I want to share just a piece of that with you so you can know what to expect. You know, right now in our country, we're at an interesting crisis point. The chronic pain and opioid healthcare crisis. Some people call it epidemic. But as my friend and colleague, Dr. Joe Cabaret said, what it really is, it's a lack of coping skills crisis. And people are depending on what I call the biomedical model, pills, shots, procedures, surgeries, in order to get relief. But what that is just a Band-Aid. And for many pain conditions, medication is not enough. As a matter of fact, in many cases, it's actually causing the problem. Before I get into talking about one of the experiential exercises you're going to do, I first want to talk about what gets in the way of being successful to achieve your freedom from suffering. I call it obstacles to positive treatment outcomes. Well, the number one is people's own self-defeating reactions. And the biggest one is where people are passive recipients instead of being active participants in their healing process. What I mean by that is they think someone else or something else needs to fix them. They're always on the search for the magical pill, shot, procedure, doctor, clinician, physical therapist, acupuncturist, latest diet, nutrition, whatever it is. They're looking for something outside of themselves, and they're not being proactive in their healing process. That can stop us from achieving true freedom from suffering. Also, a lot of times people become what I call maliciously compliant, either to please their providers or to try to manipulate them for something. Then what happens when you live with chronic pain for a long time, and believe me, I was there, we get into a hopeless and helpless state of mind. There's a lot of grief and loss, a lot of shame and guilt. We have depression and other coexisting problems. And in this day-long workshop, I'm going to talk about some of the common ones that those of us living with chronic pain experience and need a treatment plan for. We also have a lot of resistance and denial that leads to self-sabotaging behaviors. So what happens is when we're not getting our needs met, sometimes we get in an argument or a power struggle with our treatment providers, and that's a no-win situation. Nobody wins those. Now, there's more obstacles that can sabotage healing. And for me, that's not having an adequate relapse prevention plan. When people hear the term relapse prevention, many people go right and think about addiction, alcoholism or other addiction. But I'm talking about more than that. I'm talking about for pain. I'm talking about not having an effective pain flare-up plan. So that's one of the things we're going to look at during this workshop, and you're going to develop your own. Also, not utilizing a proactive activity pacing plan. Again, I'm going to share with you all the necessary components for doing that. And not having an adequate biopsychosocial spiritual plan in place. We need to work with our whole person, not just compartmentalize. And we need to go more than just a band-aid or a quick fix. One of the things that happens is a lot of times we become isolated. We don't have appropriate people. We might have enablers or we might have people that are mad at us, but we need to have appropriate accountability partners. And I'm going to teach you how to develop at least 2 or 3 appropriate accountability partners that you can utilize after this day-long event to put into action the plan that you develop. One of the biggest and most exciting parts of the day that I've always found most people always share with me is where they get to look at pain versus suffering. So I'll do a lot of education about that, where pain is that signal that goes from the point of the injury, the pain generator, up to the thalamus that tells us, hey, something's wrong. Now, after living with pain for a long time, sometimes that signal gets corrupted, distorted, or amplified. And the interpretation becomes, instead of ouch, this hurts, it's horrible, awful, terrible, unbearable, agonizing, excruciating, suffering. So remember the old saying, this goes back a long, long time. Pain's inevitable, suffering's optional. And a lot of our pain is physical, but a lot of it's also psychological, emotional. And so freedom from suffering, again, is your right and your responsibility. This tagline was developed by my wife, Ellen Grinstead, as we finalized the book, Freedom from Suffering, A Journey of Hope. So, pain or suffering? Well, guess what? You get to decide. So you'll take a look, and I'll take you through a real experiential process where you'll get to differentiate and figure out for yourself how much of your pain is physical or biological and how much of it's psychological, emotional. How do we do that? Well, let me give you a sneak preview. I call this ascending versus descending pain signals. Ascending means it comes from in the body, the pain receptors in the body, up to the thalamus. The descending occur as a result of how the brain interprets those signals. So the biological signals are the ascending. Words like aching and throbbing, splitting or piercing, irritated and sore, burning and stinging, inflamed and sharp, hot and radiating, and numbing and tingling. Some of these are neuropathic, and some of these are physical nociceptive pain. Now, you're going to get to look and choose for yourself out of a menu of 27 different physical symptoms. You will circle the ones that you would use on a bad pain day to describe to somebody else what it feels like. Then you will rate it on a 1 to 10 pain scale. We're going to do a lot of work with the pain scale during this workshop. Now, then you're going to look at 27 symptoms that are psychological, emotional, or suffering. Words like dreadful, severe, irritating, nagging, saddening, depressing. Are any of these sounding familiar? I know I can go there. Anybody with pain has both physical and psychological, emotional, because it happens really quick. But when we live with chronic pain, again, these symptoms get distorted or amplified. We have words like distressing and excruciating, have words like grueling and punishing, upsetting and aggravating, terrifying and dreadful. So these are just some examples again. And once you rate these, then we go through educating all about pain. So there's a lot to look forward to. I'm just giving you a brief snapshot of what to expect on May 11th when you come for the workshop. And please, space is limited, so sign up soon. So one of the things I also work with patients is using their right brains. I had a patient several years ago that came to me and was in really horrible anguish, physical and psychological anguish. So I asked her to bring into our next session an artistic interpretation of her pain on a bad pain day. Here's what she brought in. And if you can read it, it says, "My pain, the monster within." And for her, it was terrifying and scary. So suffering might look like this. Now, we're going to talk a lot about the importance of making peace with pain. So as I worked with this patient throughout several months, when we got near time to say goodbye and terminate therapy, I asked her to bring in an artistic interpretation of her current relationship with her chronic pain. And this is what she brought in. And on the bottom of it, you can see it says, "Making peace with my pain." And she gave me permission to use that term, and I started using it since I worked with her, the importance of making peace with pain. It's part of my books. I've written articles on it, and it's just an important piece of stopping suffering. You got to call a ceasefire. When we talk through the day, we're going to talk about effective pain management has 4 vital components: bio, psychosocial, spiritual. So we do need some biomedical interventions and different things like diet, nutrition, and exercise in the biological window. Psychological, emotional, clinical processes, and we're going to talk a lot about those. You're going to develop your own. You're going to rate yourself in each of these 4 quadrants. Then we talk about the importance of implementing non-medication-based approaches and developing an ongoing family social support system, and most important, the glue that holds it all together, implementing spirituality. And I'm not talking about religion, so we'll talk more about that at the workshop, the difference between religion and spirituality. I want you to remember, you are worth succeeding. A friend of mine gave me this photo. It's a kitty cat looking in the mirror and seeing a lion. So, you are worth succeeding. So make yourself get up, go to the lupus website to register because space is limited. If you have a diagnosis of lupus, this workshop is free for you. And you can go to morethanlupus.com/freedom from suffering, and it'll take you to more information about the day and a link to register and get your reservation in. So please don't hesitate. Make sure that you attend on May 11th, and I really look forward to seeing you. Onward and upward.